Hey all, I thought I would throw together a quick part two to the White Room Syndrome video that I made a while back, a little bit back, um, because people found it useful, but they also I think weren't entirely sure how to how do I apply this in real time? How do I make this work while I'm telling a story, you know? Um, And I think maybe some more examples and more of the thought process behind this would be helpful. So we're gonna throw together a part two just now. We're doing off the dome, as they say. I'm gonna quickly note down some of the techniques that I was using, right? Like there's context, why it matters, location, feeling, make the area come to life, and lastly, storytelling, which I think kind of speaks for itself. Now, I was talking to someone who is actually working on a story that starts on kind of I guess you could call it a star liner or like a space shuttle, like an airplane, but to the moon, basically. You know, it's a little bit space odyssey, actually. Um, so I'm going to shamelessly steal that setting and go for it. Let's see. So I'm imagining, right, what this space is like. Uh, the first thing I want to do is fixate on on a like just any one detail of the space. A metal armrest. Just a metal armrest, completely metal. No cushion, no pretending. All right, so it's a metal armrest. Um, what does it feel like? Well, let's first also our main character is gonna be named Bowen. Right, so Bowen's elbow. How long does it take to fly to the moon? It takes a while, actually. Let's say that it takes 7 hours in this story. There's a lot of reasons that's probably not true, but like I'm not gonna say after 95, I'm not gonna 7 hours. Even the soft palm of his hand on his chin to shake the window. Okay, so you see, like I've created kind of a context, right? For or rather like how would I describe this technique, right? Like we're fixating on a detail and we're kind of coming outwards from it. It's a little more in the personification part of it, right? But let's try to apply um, some more techniques. Maybe another way of talking about personification, another technique we can talk about is comparison. Talk about how the setting isn't instead of just how it is, right? So, for example, um, flights from Asia to Europe, from Europe to North America, from North America to Australia, at least. So right now I'm doing a little bit of everything, right? So now we're gonna do a little storytelling, right? We're gonna do a little like this is all storytelling. I'm telling you about the plans, right? Right, so when so what does he imagine? He imagines Bruce is coming up and down the aisle of the narrow throne. Oh, it's going to be narrow. Oops. So I just caught myself. Um, oh, it's going to be narrow. Oops, going to be narrow. That's what I did wrong. I could tell that I had typed something wrong, but it wasn't. See, I'm really fixating. We can kind of like a subnote, we can fixate on a certain detail and let it carry us through the whole scene, just on and on and on that detail, right? Other side vomited 2 hours ago. That's kind of like he's telling himself a story. Now, we still don't know that we're in space, right? See, now we're like, now we're bringing in the fact that we're kind of looking at the moon, right? So I know I'm like getting quiet because I'm flowing, but you can sort of see what I'm doing here. Um, we're bringing in information a little bit, a little bit, a little bit, a little bit, and we're fixating not directly on the scene, but on the periphery of the scene, right? There are little bits of this and that, right? So this is one example of just like do it in action, and this is just off the top. Let's try like another little thing. So let me make a little divider here. Um, what's another example of like storytelling or personification or like one of the window panes above the couch is grinning. Crap. Thin, sassy, that her father has been meaning to fix for a while now. So like just like a sentence like this, right? Where you take a piece of the environment and you kind of bring it to life, right? Whenever you have like even in something like science fiction, right? Like you're talking about the spaceship or you're talking about fantasy, you're talking about like the great castle, right? And it's easy to be like, oh, the walls tower 40 feet high, right? Feet high. Um, and that's like good information. It helps you sort of imagine, but draw 40 feet for me. Try and imagine 40 feet. It's dead information. Like try something else like this. Like Tara and Tara cranes her neck and imagines a sort of creature that would be kept out by walls like that. The sort of giant wouldn't have been able, that wouldn't be able to step over. So they measured her eyes. Its walls are nearly as thick. They are tall. She imagines the conversations about those towers, the archers standing ready, fingers hovering, even now on a quiet day, at their quivers, right? So we're storytelling. We're storytelling a bit of imagination. How many? How close? How spread out? How many towers? Sorry about this. How many archers in each tower to hold back an army? Maybe. Or maybe to shoot down a dragon coming. Is it enough? Maybe they thought it was enough. Tara has seen dragon. There's nothing even close to enough. So like you obviously like I could, and it's a little bit cheating because I wrote a whole paragraph here instead of just a sentence, but the point still stands. That first sentence, the walls tower 40 feet high, I could give you all of this information. They're 40 feet high, they're 20 feet thick, they were designed for this reason. They are, there's this many towers or this many archers in each tower. I can give you all of that information, and I can give you all the same information that's here, but if we do that, we lose out on so many beautiful opportunities of thought and discovery. Like this paragraph, sure, it's about the walls, but it's about Tara experiencing the walls. She's craning her neck, she's imagining, and it's about her as a character, things that she knows that other people don't, right? So that's one way of doing it, right? That's another way of looking at it, right? Let's like put this aside. So I'm not writing a continuation of that. I'm looking at it a little differently. Like pick the wall. Thinks about home. She thinks about the meager stakes surrounding her little village. She thinks about how safe she had felt once. Had she ever been safe? Even before all of it had happened, had she? How could she have ever been safe in a world where someone needed a wall like this? The wooden stakes may as well have been a necklace. I don't know. I like that a lot. Kind of like I imagine like these stakes. They're useless. They're jewelry on the village. They're not doing anything. They're not helping anyone, right? So this sentence, right? Like I haven't told you anything about the wall except that it's sort of thick, right? Like but Tara's impression of the wall, the way she feels about not the wall, but her own village. I've actually spent a lot more energy describing the village and her feelings about the village and what happened than I did describing where she is right now. But because she's thinking about her village, it creates context. You know that this wall is really imposing because how could she have ever been safe in a world where someone needed a wall like this? The wooden stakes may as well have been a necklace. Her village is inadequate. That's what you have to know, right? We can do one more. Terra is crushed flat, even on the inside of the city. On the right side of this wall, she is paper on the cobblestone. 40 feet of rock and mortar and men come tumbling down onto her every time she so much as glances upwards. And so we're kind of like creating this feeling of the space. She deserves it. How dare you be here? Towering stones accuse her. We know what you've done. Even if, let's create a name. Starts with D, destined, short for death. This is stupid. This is a stupid name. Destined by her side has no clue. She knows the stones know. If only speak instead, they're simply content to grind her down to the dirt, down to dust. I like it. I mean, it's a little, I don't, like, I'm not writing right now, so I'm just kind of messing around with this. But the point is that, like, the impression, the feeling, the environment is threatening her because of something that she did. It's like a secret that she has, and the secret has become embedded in the scale of the wall, right? Again, so even though I'm not, like I've said, I used 40 feet, but that's more to talk about the mass, the weight crushing her. I'm not saying, oh, it's so tall. I'm saying it's like what's tall is her secret or whatever it is she's. I have no idea. I'm just making this up. What's tall is her secret, but she feels that secret as the height of the wall. So whenever you're writing, even in a fantasy environment, sort of like taking these, like really grounded in the character experience, right? Um, even like I'll do one more. I'll do one more just because like I wanna really like play with this. Like, you know, Taylor counts the etchings along the rock. She pauses to count them, but only for a moment before realizing carrying them easily. Thousands, just tiny little lines carved sideways, rows. Technique used to take the stone from a quarry somewhere. Thousand way. Something about, however, people had managed to transport it so far. Etchings, journey? No. Soldiers. Everyone leaves one on their way out, on their way in. Two, two if they've lost somebody in between. Right. And so we're not talking about like the height of the wall. We're not talking about the water. We're talking about like a little detail, like something that actually has nothing to do with the dimensions of the setting or the grandiosity or the architecture, just like a little human relationship. But what's in here? Something about massive. Yeah, let's take that. So what we're doing is I'm not talking about like the process of getting the stone here, of mining out something so large, of carrying it such a long distance. So again, we have a feeling of majesty, but what we're fixating on are these tiny little carvings that have a human root. So again, like what I'm really coming at, you can give all the details you want, but what really holds people and pulls people is connection, trying to connect to characters through details. I hope that makes sense. I hope I haven't made matters worse. But in any case, I hope the video is helpful or enjoyable. Feel free to leave a comment, uh, and I'll see you next time.